Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to give you a guide on how to rent in London. So this guide is intended for people who are either living on their own or living as a couple and want to know how to rent in London and the things that they should know before renting in order to not end up spending too much money or not getting the most out of their money. So the video is going to be in two parts because you ultimately have two options. You can either opt for a flat share, which is basically renting a room in a flat or house, or you could rent an entire one-bedroom flat. Now, of course, the price is going to be different, but if you're living as a couple, it would make more sense to go for a one-bedroom flat. So the first part of this video is going to be about flat shares and what you really should be looking out for before renting in London. So what exactly is a flat share? So essentially a flat share or a house share, you are renting a room from the landlord, so you have your entire room. Also, you'll get access to a communal kitchen and a communal bathroom, unless of course it's an ensuite, and most of the times you'll get access to a communal lounge or living room. And this isn't always the case, so it's very important to actually check all the details of a flat share. So why would you want to opt for a flat share? So if you want to live alone in London, chances are that you don't want to spend your entire salary on renting a whole flat, and it could also be quite lonely renting your own flat. So opting for a flat share allows you to just pay for a room, and the rent is usually cheaper. So as you know, the price of everything has gone up, but I typically recommend looking for a flat share in London to be around £750 to £950 per month, or also known as PCM, so per calendar month. And what per calendar month really means is that not every month has an equal number of days, so February has 28 and March has 31 for example, but on average there are more than 4 weeks in a month. And essentially per calendar month just means every month you're paying the same amount of rent, even if it's shorter like February. Even if it's a shorter month like February, you're still paying the full amount of rent, and even in longer months like March you are paying the same base rate. And it just makes more sense because if you pay per week, you know, there are 4.3 weeks on average per month, and it just becomes a headache for the landlord to collect the payment. Most flat shares, like I said before, will contain a communal living area. So it's an area where you can go and lounge about, relax while you're not in your room, because you're not just tied to your room. You can go to the living room. It's a communal space, which means it's a shared space, so there is no privacy there. The benefit of living in a flat share is that you have flatmates, which is a negative and a positive, but flatmates can provide sometimes with extra food. So if they bake, so if you have a flatmate that bakes, maybe they'll have extra treats for the weekend, and also all-round friendship and camaraderie if you have flatmates. And of course the opposite can be true too. It means there's an invasion of privacy. I mean, you can't just walk around, you know, the whole flat in your underwear. So that's the thing to consider, whether going down the flat share route or renting an entire flat. So the other thing with flat shares is that usually most flat shares will contain bills within the price. So if you're paying £900 per month, you're paying the council tax, you're paying the electricity bill, you're paying the heating bill, and you're paying the water bill. So this should all be included as part of the one rent price. This is because the landlord pays for all these utilities and rent and then divides it amongst the people renting out the flat. So there are a number of things that you should know before getting into a flat share. So the first thing that you should do is always go visit the place in person, because you really want to know what kind of people you are living with. If you're really incompatible with the people you're living in a flat share, it can become almost unbearable to live. For example, if you're a professional and you're living with students, there's likely to be some sort of mismatch with the sleeping schedule and, you know, partying and stuff like that, and food. There will be quite a mismatch. So usually some flat shares will have professionals only, no students allowed, and things like that. If you have pets, most likely your flat share will not allow pets. Most landlords are not very pet friendly. This is because of course pets can leave a lot of hair, they can lead to damage of furniture and things like that. So you really do have to ask your landlord first before getting pets. Another thing to think about before getting into a flat share is the dietary requirements of other people. For example, if you're living in a flat share where everyone is a vegan and you are a proper carnivore, sometimes that may be borderline disrespectful and it might not even be allowed. So for example, there might be other dietary requirements like halal, kosher and stuff like that, and certain flats might not allow certain foods. Maybe some certain flats might not allow alcohol, so it's very important to actually go there, meet with the people and talk to them before, if you want to avoid surprise. So once you found a flat share, what you have to realize is that there is a minimum tenancy agreement, which is 6 months. So once you sign that agreement, you are contractually obliged to pay the landlord the rent for 6 months minimum, and this means that by law you have to pay the landlord the rent unless something goes really wrong. you must pay this rent. Even if you go on holiday, you must pay this rent. So that's something to pay attention to, especially if you don't get along with your flatmates, is the fact that you are bound to a contract. One other thing that you should realize before getting into a flat share is the fact that any sort of renting requires a deposit. So deposit is usually 5 weeks worth of rent, which is basically the per calendar month plus a bit more. So if it's £900, usually the deposit's going to be around £1,100. And this deposit the landlord keeps until the very end, and if there are any damages, the landlord will take it out of this deposit. It's very important in going through the right providers and a reputable search website, because often you can get very dodgy landlords that keep the rent. But using a reputable site such as Rightmove will allow you to mostly avoid such issues. So now I'm going to go into the computer and I'm going to show you how you would search up a flat share in London. So now I'm on my computer and I've loaded up Rightmove. So you are greeted with this screen and this search toolbar here. So what I usually do is press EC1 because that's almost right bang in the middle of London. So it will allow me to look at flats around the centre. So EC1 Central London, and then you want to press the to rent button. You are then met with all these drop down menus. So you can actually specify your own search radius and how far you want to be away from the centre. So as you know, London has many different zones, Zone 1 being the most expensive, so if you live in the centre it's very, very expensive. Zone 2 is a ring around Zone 1, it's less expensive but it's still quite expensive because it's quite close to Zone 1. Zone 3, as you can imagine, is further away from Zone 2 and 1, so it gets cheaper. It is up to you how far you want to be away from the centre. Usually the centre is where all the offices are and where the big universities are. If you're required to go into the city centre, often you might want to be closer because that will save some time. I would personally recommend being no more than 5 miles away from the centre, just because it's my personal preference, and also it is a lot safer towards the centre than the outskirts of London. So I would do 5 miles. So the price range for a flat share I would say is £900 maximum per calendar month. You can leave the number of bedrooms as it is, and property type you can leave that for now as well. Just press find properties. You don't need to necessarily change the added to site, or you can do last 14 days, so let's just do that and press find properties. Next, what you want to do is go to filters, and you want to press under must haves, you want to press house shares, so that only gives you house shares, and you press done, and here you are presented with 45 results of properties within the price range of £0 to £900 per calendar month within the 5 mile radius of central London. And that is actually not a lot of results, but I think because we put in added last 14 days, it kind of narrows it down a lot, but that is fine for now. So what we can see is pictures of different properties and then a few information data points here. So it would say the name of the road and the postcode. So if you're not very clued up with London's postcodes are very basically, there's north, west, south and east. So N meaning north, E meaning east, and then districts within those, so E1 being closest to the centre and E17 being the furthest away from the centre. It kind of works like that. Essentially that's what it is. So SW will be southwest. So here's one in Mile End Road, and you can see straight away that this one here, this one here is an advert. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's the closest to your search result, it just means someone's paid for it, so that's why it's in the beginning. When I quickly glance over it, I can quickly see that it is student accommodation, so it might not be the best thing. You can see that it's on the lower end of our budget, so we'll go into it anyway and see what kind of flat we get for £672. So you can open the image up and kind of gauge what the bedroom looks like. As you can see, you have a single bed, so you do have to realize that you're paying less because you're getting a single room with a single bed. A single bed for an adult is not necessarily the most comfortable, so that is something to consider. This was an ex-student accommodation, it looks like, so that's why it's a bit cheaper. And you can see you don't have much space in the room. I wouldn't say it's the smallest room in the world actually. For this price, it doesn't look too bad. And it's got a really nice shower room. So it's got a full-size standing shower. It has a 3-piece bathroom, which means it has a shower, it has a toilet seat and a basin, and it's also got a towel rail. This is actually not too bad. Some properties will even have a virtual tour, and the virtual tour actually puts it into perspective how tiny it is. So you can see as soon as you enter, met with a tiny single bed, a little desk and a wardrobe. It's very, very basic, I would say. Very basic, but for the price, if you're a student, I mean, I guess you could live there for a year, but anything more, you'd probably go crazy. what else can we gauge from this? So the next thing I would do is actually open the map and see how far it is to, the places that you want to get to. So I work around here, which means that this is actually not too far from where I work. And the best thing about this place is it actually has a really good transport link. So it's very close to Myland Station, which is on the Central Line, and very close to Stepney Green Station, which is on the District Lines. So in terms of travel links, this is actually excellent. But the only thing I would say about this place is that it is student accommodation. You're getting just a room and no kitchen. So that's why it's very cheap, because there is literally no kitchen. So you're going to either have to eat out or find some other place to cook your food. This is the main reason why it is so cheap. Okay, so upon further inspection, it does look like there is a kitchen, but I could bet my bottom dollar that it is one of those kitchens that are shared between a lot of students. And I will find this information just to confirm. The kitchen, there are 5 bedrooms within the property. Oh, it's actually not too bad. I take that back. So there are 5 bedrooms which use the kitchen. So yeah, a lot of sharing, and you probably don't have the best of utensils. I mean, there's one stove between around 5 people. It's not the worst. It's not too bad at all. Yeah, so I may have found a deal. This was quite unintentional, but I seem to have found quite a good deal. If you are looking for a property, this looks quite good. So another thing that it does say is if it's furnished or unfurnished. Honestly, I've never seen a Flatshare that's unfurnished, so that's going to be very weird to have a Flatshare that's unfinished. It's almost exclusively reserved for flats. So let's go to the next one. So this is a much more expensive property, and we can already see why that it is more expensive of a property, because of the refurbishing quality and the standard of the kitchen. And this kitchen seems to have 2 different stoves. Yeah, 2 gas stoves. This would be the communal lounge. It's got a little dining area, and this would be the bedroom. So for £870, you're getting what looks like a double bed, and there's not too many pictures. So what I would be concerned about this is the fact that it doesn't show the rest of the bedroom, and if you look carefully, the condition of the bedroom does not seem to be too great, to be honest. You can see in the corner that it looks like some sort of damp stain. It looks like some sort of paint chafing off the walls, off the ceiling, and it doesn't show if there is a wardrobe. So for me, whenever I see properties with around 4 pictures of 5 pictures, 6 pictures, and they're not correlating to the actual bedroom, they're not corresponding to the actual bedroom, it is a bit suspect, because maybe the best thing is the fact that they have a nice lounge, but the actual bedroom is not that nice really, and there's no wardrobe, and you don't want to be buying your own furniture for a Flatshare. There is a very small bathroom with a toilet and a shower and a small patio. We can open the map and see whereabouts this is. It's actually in a very nice area, I would say. So Battersea is a very nice area. It's quite close to Chelsea. However, it is quite far from the centre. Don't be fooled into thinking that it's only this much to Soho. Well, in actual fact, the transport links aren't great in South London. That's something to realise, that below the Thames, the transport links become exponentially worse. Okay, so as long as you're above the Thames, which is this bendy river here, you are fine. As soon as you go below the Thames, the transport link becomes terrible. Although that being said, they have made a new Northern Line extension, the Battersea Power Station here, but even then, it's not going to be that close as you think to the Central. But that being said, it is a nice area. That being said, it is a very nice area, so I wouldn't be too unhappy to live here. So it's very important that you read through the whole thing, because there are some hidden charges. So as you can see, it's £870 per calendar month, but you have to pay another £30 for all bills being included. So that's a bit sneaky. Sometimes they do that. And through reading it, I've realized that it is a ensuite bedroom. So this is why it's more expensive, because you have your own bathroom. And having your own bathroom is a godsend. And I would not be able to share a bathroom. I can't imagine that. So this is quite justified, and it seems like quite a good deal, knowing that now it is an ensuite and it is 0.7 miles away from Clapham Common. Again, not the best of transport links in that area. We're going to go through just a few more just to get comfortable on looking for Flatshare. So let's look at this one in SW9. First thing I would do is open the map and see where it is. So it is quite close to Oval, which again, south of London, not the best in the world. Especially now, you have to realise that if you're renting within the next couple of months, the Northern Line from the south is actually not working. So that was one of the great things about living around in this area. Elephant and Castle is that you can get straight into Central through the Northern Line, but currently it's not doing that, so that is something to consider. So this is £700, and wow, it has 2 beds. This is very unusual. So for some reason it has 2 beds. Flicking through the pictures, the property doesn't look to be in the most, the refurbishment is not the highest of quality. It does seem quite clean, but it doesn't look too aesthetic. Like, nothing is actually matching. The tables are all over the place in terms of design, but what can you do? And it's quite odd to see 2 beds. That is very, very odd. But anyway, just by looking at it, it doesn't look too bad to me. Like, this wardrobe does look like it needs a bit of fixing. But yeah, for the location and for the room size, I mean, that's quite a decent room size. But you have to consider that you probably have to buy another wardrobe because clothes will not fit into that tiny wardrobe there. But yeah, it seems like a very large room. There's room for a desk, which is very important to me, especially if you work from home. And you should get that's the catch. So there is actually no communal living room. So that's probably why it is a bit cheaper and why there's 2 beds for some reason. So yeah, all inclusive, no communal area. Yep, so no communal area. I mean, you can argue that this is a communal area, but I would not consider that a communal area because you want some sort of sofa and a television that would constitute a communal area. Okay, so one more and we'll end this part of the video, and if you're looking to rent a flat, it will be in the next part. I'll put the link to that video here and you can click on that and understand how you could rent a flat. Okay, so the last property we're going to look at is this one in SE1, which looks like a very nice room. So the first thing I would do is open the map, and it looks to be in a decent place. Elephant and Castle. It has good links to Central. Not the best, but like I said, currently the Northern Line is not running into Central from around this area, but it seems to be an okay area. £900 does seem a lot, so let's understand why it is £900 per calendar month. It is quite a large room, so that's one thing. It looks to be an ensuite, if I am correct. I mean, it must be an ensuite because you can see that this door here leads to the bathroom, shower. So it's an ensuite. It has like a patio outside bit. So an outside bit in London is actually a premium. So any sort of outside space usually increases the rent. So if that's what you want, make sure you are willing to go towards the £900 per month budget. It has a very, very large kitchen for London, and that is expected because it's not exactly in central London. It's very close to Zone 1, if not, it is Zone 1. So one thing to consider is if you're living in Zone 1 and you drive a car, it costs around £15 just to leave the centre. So anyone visiting you via car has to do so after 10 PM or before 6 AM, which is not feasible because there is congestion charge to be paid. But yeah, this seems to be nice. Like, the quality of the place seems to be great, and yeah, you can just tell these houses are built very well. You're likely to be very well insulated during the winter, and it should have all bills included. Yeah, it's an ensuite double bedroom, shared house, nice kitchen. Yeah, great. So this was part 1 for how to rent in London if you want a flat share. I'm going to film part 2 right after this. So if you've watched this video and you want to see how you would rent a flat in London, make sure you click on that video and watch that. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this. And as always, thank you for watching.